Okay, so what would you do in order to solve this? What would be your first step? So we got the equation 4x plus 6 equals 18. Okay, so the first thing you would do is solve this equation. That's probably what I would do too. So I would take that 4x plus 6 equals 18. So we're going to subtract 6. And then what else will we do? Divide by 4. Okay. So we figured out that x equals what? 3. So now we need to determine which one of these equations has the same solution. And we can kind of see it even from this step. So even if you didn't solve it all the way, we could see from here that once we subtract that 6, the 4x equals 12 was also here. So the equivalent equation would be C. Raise your hand if you pick C. Good job. Any questions about how we did that? Is anybody taking the, raise your hand if you've already taken the SAT. Raise your hand if you're taking it this school year. Okay. All right. So usually students take it their junior or senior year. Sometimes some kids take it their sophomore year, but definitely you should take it your junior year just so you can kind of see, you know, what it's like and kind of get an idea of what's on there. All right. So in your note packet, we're going to skip a little bit. Let's go to page 16 in your note packet. And last week we did addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And the last operation left is division. So we're going to do a little bit of division today, and then tomorrow we'll start long division with polynomials. All right, so the first thing you want to do, whenever you have just one term, so I have 7x plus 42, and I'm dividing that by 7. So I'm only dividing it by one term. We can just separate this and create two fractions. So we're going to have 7x, and then we have the plus 42, and we're dividing both of these by 7. So go ahead and simplify that. So we're taking both of those terms and dividing them by 7. So we got the 7x divided by 7 and the 42 divided by 7. So for the first one, 7x divided by 7, well, we just have 7 divided by 7. And 7 divided by 7 is 1. And 42 divided by 7, what is 42 divided by 7? 6. Good job. And that would be your answer. Okay, so go ahead and try to do this second one. Set it up. So we're taking both of these terms and we're dividing them both by 4. Go ahead and write what would you get after you simplify that? So what's 8x divided by 4?
4.
No, not 2x. You're thinking of subtraction, which is easy to do. It's a Monday. 36 divided by 4? 9. That would be your answer. Pretty easy, right? So far? All right, let's do our next one. So now we have two terms. We have a 2 and an x. Sorry, we have 2x, which is one term, but I'm dividing each one by a number and a variable. So again, I'm going to write it as 3 fractions. So we have 3 fractions. I got the 24 x to the 4th plus 18x squared minus 30x. And we're dividing each one by 2x. So you're dividing the numbers, but subtracting your exponents. So the exponent on x in our denominator is an invisible 1. So you're subtracting. So you're taking the 24 divided by 2, but you're subtracting the 4 minus 1. So 24 divided by 2 is 12. And then how many x's do we have? So we got 4 minus 1. So you got to subtract. Whenever you're dividing, you subtract. 4 minus 1, which would be what? Cubed, x to the 3rd. Bring down the plus sign. Make sure she's not looking for me. No, it's okay. Okay, so 18 divided by 2. So we got 18 divided by 2, which would be 9. And now we have to subtract. So I have 2 upstairs and 1 downstairs. So when you subtract 2 minus 1, you just have 1. And whenever the exponent is 1, we don't have to write it. I'm just going to write it, but we don't have to. And then lastly, you have, bring down your subtraction sign, 30 divided by 2, which is 15. And when you subtract 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. So you could put x to the power of 0, but you could also just leave that x off. Any questions? Okay, let's keep moving forward here. Go ahead and set up question 17. I'm not question 17, sorry. The next question, and then simplify it. So divide the numbers, subtract the exponents. Okay. So what did you all get for the first term? 3x to the power of 8. Who had that? Raise your hand if you had that for your first term. Good job. Bring down the plus sign. What was our next one? We got anybody? What you get? 8x cubed. Well, not 8. Close, though. 21 divided by 3. 7x cubed. All right. And then the last one. What'd you get, Pierre? 4x squared. Perfect. All right. Any questions about that? Okay, good. All right, go ahead and work the next one. And I think we only got 2 more left. This one and the next one, and then we'll be done. So this time we have x squared. So we're subtracting each exponent by 2. All right, so for the first one, we got 16 divided by 4, which is 4. And now you're going to subtract 6 minus 2, which is 4. Bring down the addition sign. 28 divided by 4 is 7. And then how many x's do we have with that term when you subtract the 5 minus 2? Show me with your fingers, how many x's do you have with the next term? 3. And then for our last one, we have, this one is a little tricky because do you see how we have more downstairs than we have upstairs? So the 1x that we have is going to be in the bottom. Because after we subtract it, anytime you have more in the denominator, see I had 2 downstairs and 1 upstairs. So that's the same as saying if we were to take this and break this down to 4 times 3 times x divided by 4 times x, when I cross out the 4's and I cross out the x's, I'm left with just an x, but it's in my denominator. This is what I'm left with, 3 over x. All right, go ahead and work through that last question on your own. So this one cannot be reduced. So 9 doesn't go into 5, so you would just leave that as a fraction. It would just be 9/5 and then x squared. You could also write that as a decimal, which I think would be, what, 1.8? 1.8, yeah. So either leave it as a fraction or write it as a decimal. For the second term, when we divide 15 divided by 5, we just get 3. So when you subtract, you would have, you could say x to the power of 0, because 3 minus 3 is 0. But x to the power of 0 is the same as 1. So generally, we just don't write it because it simplifies to 1. And then for my last term here, I have 25, which is 5 times 5 xx And that's over 5 and then 3x's. So when I cancel out my like terms, which would be the 5 and an x. Oh, I could cross off 2 x's, sorry. I'm left with just a 5 over x. And that's why the last term is 5 over x. Okay, so homework 4 is division. We're actually going to work on that this whole week. The only questions you can do right now are the first 2. And can you write that it's due next Monday, September 30th for full credit. We also have a test next week on Wednesday.